So Miss Meadows said that it was quite good, but the tone in which she said was quite stony. It was a harsh tone, and it had no expressions or no, you can say, sense of appreciation for the girls. Due to which the young girls they began to feel frightened from inside. But now that we know it, we shall take it with expression, as much expression as you can put into it. Think of the words, girls. Use your imaginations. Fast are too fast, cried Miss Meadows. Now, Miss Meadows orders the girls that now, since you people have practiced with the song, you know now the complete song. So, put some expressions into it and use your imagination. Remember the words of the song and try to put as much expression into it as you want. Then she repeats the line of that song, fast are too fast. That ought to break out a loud, strong forte, a lament. And then in the second line, winter drear, make that drear sound as if a cold wind were blowing through it. Drear. She said she so awfully that Mary Beasley on the music stool wriggled her spine. After that, she again commands the girls that you have to sing in such a loud voice that it should look like a lament. And when you reach to the next line, the second line, winter drear, make that drear sound as if a cold wind is blowing. Then she gives an expression, drear. She speaks in such an awful voice that Mary Beasley, who was sitting on the chair of the musical chair, she too was having a shivering in her spine. The third line should be one crescendo, fleetly, fleetly, music's gay measure. Breaking on the first word of the last line, passes. And then on the word away, you must begin to die, to fade, until the listening ear is nothing more than a faint whisper. You can slow down as much as you like, almost on the last line. Now, please. She commands again the girls that when you reach to the third line, you should sing it as a crescendo. Crescendo is a gradual increase in the loudness of a sound or a section of music. That means gradually the girls have to take up their voice in a loud manner. And what was that line? Fleetly, fleetly, music's gay measure. Then she says that now then you have to break on the first word of the last line, passes. And then on the word away, you have to speak in such a way as if the sound is dying out. That means a fading sound has to be given in your song. And till the listening ear word is the sentence you encounter in that song, it should turn out to be a whisper, so slow a voice that it should be heard as a whisper. Then she said that you can slow down as much as you can, almost like almost on the last line. Now, after giving all these commands, she says now you can continue. So, what commands did she give? She said to the girls that you have to first of all sing in such a way as if a lament song is being sung. You have to cry out in such a way in the song. And then when you reach to the next line, rare words should be spoken in such a way or sung in such a way that it should be like a cold wind blowing. Then she says that fleetly, our fleetly line should be sung in the form of a crescendo. That means gradually your voice should increase in the pitch. After that, it should gradually decrease when it reaches to the last line, passes, and then away. And when you reach on away, it should gradually keep on dying out. Okay, now again the two light taps. She lifted her arms again, fast are too fast, and the idea of settling down fills me with nothing but disgust. Now, after giving this, she again gestures with her hand as if commanding the girls to sing in that way as she had ordered. But while she was doing these things, again that sentence of that letter was, you can say, continuously wriggling in her mind, and that was what? The idea of settling down fills me with nothing but disgust. Disgust was what he had written that was as good as to say the engagement was definitely broken off. Broken off. The engagement? People had been surprised enough that she had got engaged. The science mistress would not believe it at first, but nobody had been as surprised as she. Now, she was having that idea in mind that why did he write disgust? This means he wanted to say that the engagement was a big mistake and that everything has broken off, they are breaking off. And she remembers that how everybody was surprised when she got engaged to Basil. Even the science teacher was quite surprised. She was the most surprised person in the school. She was 30, Basil was 25. It had been a miracle, simply a miracle, to hear him say as they walked home from the church that very dark night, "You know, somehow or the other, I have got fond of you." And he had taken hold of the end of her ostrich feather boa, passes away from the listening ear. Now she remembers that she was 30 years of age and Basil was 25 years of age. And she remembered that night when they were returning home from the church. Then Basil had confessed in front of her that somehow or the other he had got interested in her. And while talking this thing, he caught hold of her ostrich feathered boa. What is a ostrich feathered boa? It is actually an accessory, just like feathers, like ladies they wear it around their neck, just like a scarf. So he caught hold of that scarf. And while she was thinking about all these things, she heard the sentence of the girls passes away from the listening ear. "Repeat, repeat," said Miss Meadows. "More expression, girls, once more." Miss Meadows didn't want to make the girls think that she was singing something else. So she again said, repeat the line with more expressions into it. Fast are too fast. The older girls were crimson. Some of the younger girls began to cry. Big spots of rain blew against the windows, and one could hear the willows whispering, "Not that I do not love you." Now, when the girls were shouting, "Fast are too fast," so most of the elder girls, they had turned crimson. That means their faces had turned red. It was such a loud voice that they had to give. And the younger girls, they started crying. They couldn't, you can say, sing the song as fast or as loud. And on the window, big drops of rain began to just, you can say, knock on the window. And the willow tree, which was outside the window, it was moving in the air in such a way as if Basil was speaking, "Not that I do not love you." "But my darling, if you love me," thought Miss Meadows, "I don't mind how much it is. Love me as little as you like." Now Miss Meadows was thinking that if you love me, it's okay for me. Even if you love me a little, that would be enough for me. But she knew he didn't love her. Now she said that there's no you can say chance of thinking about all these things, and there's no point of thinking all these things because he didn't love her. Not to have cared enough to scratch out that word disgust, because if he had loved her, he would not have left that word disgust and then put a simple cross over it and then write regret. Disgust was written in such a way that she could read it. Soon autumn yields unto winter drear. She would have to leave the school too. She could never face the science mistress or the girls after it had gone, after it got moved. She would have to disappear somewhere, passes away. The voices began to die, to fade, to whisper, to vanish. Now, when the girls were reciting the line of that song, "Soon autumn yields unto winter drear," she said that she too will have to leave the school because when all these things will come out into the ears of the people, all of them will hear about it. She will never be able to face them. So, in order to hide her shame, she will have to leave the school, leave the town, and move somewhere else. Now, while she was thinking all these things, the girls did as the teacher had told them, that when they reached to the last line, passes away, their sound began to slow down, and then it turned into a whisper and then stopped. Suddenly, the door opened. A little girl in blue walked fussily up the aisle, hanging her head, biting her lips, and twisting the silver bangle on her red little wrist. She came up the steps and stood before Miss Meadows. Well, Monica, what is it? What is it? Now, as the girls had stopped singing, suddenly the door of the room opened, and little girl had entered in a blue dress, and she was biting her lips. She was twisting the bangles in her hands, and her head was down. She went up to the aisle where Miss Meadows was sitting. So Miss Meadows asked her, "What happened, Monica? What is it?" "Oh, if you please, Miss Meadows," said the little girl, gasping, "Miss Wyatt wants to see you in the mistress' room." So the girl had brought the message that Miss Wyatt, who is the headmistress, she wants to see you. "Very well," said Miss Meadows, and she called to the girls, "I shall put you on your honor to talk quietly while I am away." But they were too subdued to do anything else. Most of them were blowing their noses. Now, Miss Meadows, she ordered the girls that "I will honor you if you people only speak in a low voice with each other." And then she went off. But the girls, they had been so much exhausted by the song, practicing it in a loud voice and then fading and then doing whatever she had told, that nobody had the strength to talk to each other. All of them were blowing their noses because as if they were crying. The corridors were silent and cold. They echoed to Miss Meadows' steps. The headmistress sat at her desk. For a moment she did not look up. She was as usual disentangling her eyeglasses, which had got caught in her lace tie. "Sit down, Miss Meadows," she said very kindly, and then she picked up a pink envelope from the blotting pad. "I sent for you just now because this telegram has come for you." Now, when Miss Meadows was passing through the corridors, it was complete silence, so only her footsteps could be heard echoing. So when she reached the headmistress' room, the headmistress, Miss Wyatt, was busy in her work as usual with her head down, and she was disentangling or removing her spectacles and trying to remove it from the lace where the spectacles had been entangled. And she said that, "Sit down, Miss Meadows." And she took a pink envelope from the blotting pad and gave it to her, that "This telegram has come for you. That is why you have been called here." "A telegram for me, Miss Wyatt?" "Basil, he had committed suicide," decided Miss Meadows. Her hand flew out, but Miss Wyatt held the telegram back a moment. "I hope it's not bad news," she said, so more than kindly, and Miss Meadows tore it open. Now, Miss Meadows had some apprehension. She was very much afraid from inside. Had Basil committed suicide or what? She wanted to take the telegram immediately, but Miss Wyatt held it back and said that, "I hope it's not a bad news for you." And then she gave it to her. Miss Meadows, she tore open the telegram. It was written, "Pay no attention to letter, must have been mad. Bought hat stand today. Basil." She read. She couldn't take her eyes off the telegram. The telegram was from Basil, in which he said that, "Please do not pay attention to that letter which I gave it to you, that our marriage will be a mistake," and something like that. "And today I have brought a hat stand, Basil." She could not believe what was written in the telegram. So she could not take her eyes off from the telegram. I do hope it's nothing very serious," said Miss Wyatt, leaning forward. Miss Wyatt saw her expression and she leaned forward and said that, "I hope there is nothing serious in the telegram." "Oh no, thank you, Miss Wyatt," blushed Miss Meadows. "It's nothing bad at all. It's—" And she gave an apologetic little laugh. It's from our fiance saying that. There was a pause. I see, said Miss Vyat, and another pause then. You have 15 minutes more of your class, Miss Meadows, haven't you? Now, here Miss Meadows said though, that no, it's not a serious thing. It's a telegram from my fiancé, and he wanted to say that. She couldn't, she was hesitating and she couldn't tell what was written in that. Now, Miss Vyat said, okay. And she reminded Miss Meadows that 15 minutes more are left to your class, and I think you should go. She wanted to say this thing. Yes, Miss Vyat. She got up. She half ran towards the door. Oh, just 1 minute, Miss Meadows, said Miss Vyat. I must say I don't approve of my teachers having telegrams sent to school in school hours unless in case of very bad news such as death, explained Miss Vyat, or a very serious accident or something to that effect. Good news Miss Meadows will always keep, you know. Now, here, as Miss Meadows was rushing towards the door of the headmistress' office, the headmistress, Miss Vyat, asked her to wait for a moment and reminded her that she would not prefer that any of her teachers receive a telegram during the school hours except when it is a bad news, somebody's death is there, or something serious has happened, or an accident has taken place. But good news can wait. So I expect this for the next time. On the wings of hope, of love, of joy, Miss Meadows sped back to the music hall, up the aisle, up the steps, over to the piano. Now, this time, Miss Meadows was flying on wings, the wings of love, hope, and joy, due to which she was just in a, you can say, a running mode. She went quickly up to the aisle, to the hall, first of all to the hall, then to the aisle, then to the steps, and then to the piano. And then immediately she ordered the girls to open page 32. Page 32, Mary, said she. Page 32. And picking up the yellow chrysanthemum, she held it to her lips to hide her smile. Then she turned to the girls, rapped with her baton. Page 32, girls, page 32. This time she was so much happy that she addressed Mary and took the yellow chrysanthemum, and she put the yellow chrysanthemum towards her lips so that she could hide her smile. And she asked the girls to open at page 32. We come here today with flowers overladen, with baskets of fruit and ribbons to boot. To congratulate. Stop, stop, cried Miss Meadows. This is awful, this is dreadful. And she beamed at her girls. What's the matter with you all? Think, girls, think of what you are singing. Use your imaginations with flowers overladen, baskets of food, and ribbons to boot, and congratulate. Miss Meadows broke off. Don't look so doleful, girls. It ought to sound warm, joyful, eager. Congratulate. Once more quickly, all together, now then. Now, Miss Meadows couldn't take up the tone in which the girls were singing, so she asked them to stop and said that what has happened to all the girls. They should first of all see the words. What type of words are there? Like over flowers overladen, fruits, baskets of fruits and ribbons to boot, and congratulate. So she said that don't be so doleful. Doleful means don't be so shy. And sing in a voice which is having a lot of joy, a lot of love, warmth, and it should have an anxiousness. So she says that once more quickly, all of you sing with me. And this time Miss Meadows' voice sounded over all other voices, full, deep, glowing with expression. This time when Miss Meadows was singing with the girls, her voice was, you can say, overpowering the voice of the girls, because that voice was with deepness, warmth, joy, and glowing expression. So here ends up the story. So here in the story, two things are reflected. One, when Miss Meadows received a letter from her fiancé, this Basil, that he thinks that he loves her, but it doesn't mean that he should marry because he is not a marrying man. And he thinks that their marriage would be a mistake and it would give him a lot of disgust. Then he cut the word disgust and wrote regret, due to which Miss Meadows was broken down from heart, and this mood of Miss Meadows affected the girls who had come to the hall to learn music from their music teacher. So all of them had to open the page number 14, a lament song, in which first of all Miss Meadows asked them to sing without expression. When they had practiced for 2-3 times, she asked them to use more and more expression into the lines of that. And later, when she receives a letter, a telegram from her fiance Basil, for which Miss Myatt had called her to her office, that telegram had turned her mood immediately, because the telegram said that never mind that letter, maybe I must have gone mad. Yesterday I had brought a hat stand. This immediately made Miss Meadows fly on the wings of joy, hope, and love. And due to which, this time when she returned to the hall, she asked the girls to open page number 32. That was a happy song. And she asked them to sing with great warmth, with hope, and eagerness. And she sang with them, and this time her song had overpowered the song of the girls. So this shows that she had a mixed expression of her professional life. She couldn't separate her emotions from her professional life, and her mood was being reflected in the songs which she had chosen for the girls. So here we have come to know that never try to show your personal life in your professional life, because it can affect many others also with whom you are working. So this way the story ends up, in which Miss Meadows' characterization is that she was a popular teacher. Most of the girls they were running towards a hall in order to learn from Miss Meadows, because she used to teach them very well. And even Mary Beasley was very much excited every day to bring a yellow chrysanthemum for her teacher, her favorite teacher, because she was a favorite of her teacher, Miss Meadows. And this time when she entered the hall, she was a sad teacher, because it was only once in her life that at the age of 30, she got engaged to a man of 25 years. And that too, he had proposed in front of her, that he had somehow become fond of her. And so she was very happy, and they got engaged also. Everybody in the school was surprised that how could Miss Meadows get engaged. The science teacher was much more surprised. Then she was a stereotypical school teacher. Her students were emotionally attached to her, so they reflected her mood instinctively. Now, when she was heartbroken, she asked them to open the song at page number 14, a lament. This reflected her mood. Obviously, everybody knew that she was in a bad mood. And when the girls were singing as she ordered, she spoke to them in a very strict voice, in a very expressionless voice, that good, they have been singing well. Then she was an impressionable teacher. She was a person who was quite swayed by the emotions. She didn't know how to hide her emotions and carry on with the other part of the life. Her mood of the personal emotions was reflected in her personal life, in her professional life. When she was very overjoyed when she received the telegram from her fiance, she took up the yellow chrysanthemum. But initially, when she was in a bad mood, she didn't even look at Mary Beasley, nor did she even tell her that it is so nice of you. She didn't pick up the yellow chrysanthemum. This time, when she returned, she took up the yellow chrysanthemum and spoke very nicely with marry Basil. And she was a person who felt insecure about her position in society. That is why she thought that now when the news will spread in the school that they have broken off, Basil and she will have to leave the school, she will have to leave the town and live somewhere else because she couldn't face those people. So hope you people have understood this. Uh, Even Basil, for Basil, we can say that he was an insensitive person because the way he had written that first letter in which disgust had a slight cut in which she could easily read it was a disgust word shows that he was insensitive. Then he was a fickle man. His mood kept on changing. Initially, he said, "No, I don't want to marry." Later on, he said that the letter was such that you can consider that I had gone mad, and this time I have bought a hat stand. And initially, it was Basil only who had confessed his feelings in front of her. So, hope you people have understood the story. And if you have understood it, press the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.